Well, it's opening day here at the Speedway, and of course, it's raining when we don't want it to. That's just typical of Indianapolis, and more appropriately, Indianapolis in May. But this gives us a good opportunity to take a look around the garage area. This was one of my most requested videos this year. It was one of my favorite videos to do last year. So, this is 2023 Indy 500 Garage Tour. Well, here we are at garage number 1, and I was actually corrected on this last year that Dr. Indy let me know that this has not always been AJ Foyt Racing. This is actually, when these garages were christened, these first two garages were actually the Domino's Pizza Doug Shearston team. So I just wanted to correct the record on that right off the bat. Santino Ferrucci, car number 14, they just moved this car out of here. It's the Home for Troops car once again. Great effort to build homes for veterans of foreign wars. And then we are going down the line here at AJ Foyt Racing, Garage 3 and 4. These have always been the AJ Foyt garages since these garages were built. Here's Benjamin Peterson's number 55 Chevrolet in what they call Coyote Red. I see orange, but sometimes I'm colorblind, as we know from the Marco Andretti car. And as you'll see later on in this video, I can never tell if that car is blue or purple. Here's an auxiliary garage for AJ Foyt Racing where they are storing tires. This is a good time to explain that teams go through a lot of tires in the month of May. And remember, we only have 1 week of practice. So this is a team that always gets a lot of headlines. Aero McLaren. The SP has been dropped this year. We're just calling it Aero McLaren. Someday I'm sure we'll just call it McLaren. But here we go. We've got some rear end assemblies. There's one extra car this year, so they've moved everything down. All of the spare parts used to be in the end garage down on the right. Now it's on the left. Pato Award. A lot of people picking him this year for the Indianapolis 500 win. He is driving a throwback to a McLaren F1. I almost said Formula 1 car, but it's an F1, the 95 winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And this is something I want to point out since you're going to see it a lot. Teams do enter 2 cars for the Indianapolis 500. The primary car is the one you can see they're working on. The backup is the one in the back, which is orange. You're not allowed to put an engine in the backup car. You're only allowed 1 engine per entry, even if you have 2 chassis. So you'll see that as we move on. You'll see 2 chassis, but only 1 engine, 1 rear end assembly assembled. Felix Rosenqvist, definitely a fan favorite livery. It's good to see it back. It's not Dayglow, but it's orange and white. This is throwing back to a Monaco Grand Prix, I believe it's 1986. And Felix was really good last year and probably could have won the race in the right circumstances. Alexander Rossi, I think this is a lot of people's early pick. I don't even want to call him a dark horse. I think Alexander Rossi proved when he was at Andretti Autosport that he could win this race. And we know the powerhouse, the prowess of the McLaren team, the McLaren effort. I think it's going to be very exciting. One of the great storylines is Tony Kanaan in what he claims is his final Indianapolis 500 attempt. I guess we'll stay tuned on that. But growing up in Brazil, Tony Kanaan was under the tutelage of Ayrton Senna. And of course, Senna's greatest years were in a McLaren car. So the fact that he's theoretically going to end his Indy 500 career driving for McLaren is pretty special. The other thing that I mentioned to Tony Kanaan when he was giving his press conference, his kind of final press conference, is I said, you know, no matter how this is going to turn out, Tony, you're going to win your first race on a 500 miler at Michigan in '99, and either he's going to win this race or his final win is going to be Fontana in 2014, one of the great 500-mile drivers of all time. Look at all these Penske golf carts. These are new. These are brand spanking new golf carts that I have not seen before, and naturally, they are uniform. That's very typical of Team Penske, not a surprise. Speaking of, here we are, Team Penske. And I have to say, give credit to Team Penske. They're one of the only teams that changes their garage signs from the GP to the race. We've got the big Shell logos up. That looks classic as all hell, and I'm all for it. Joseph Newgarden hasn't won here yet. A lot of people picking him early on this year. He was fast in the test. You got to think one of these days Joseph Newgarden's going to win the Indianapolis 500. Here's Scott McLaughlin, a backup car. You can see the rear end assemblies there. No engine, per IndyCar rules. Then we're going to head on to where the primary car should be, and it's not. It's probably at Tech. But we at least got to see the backup car. So here we go. Will Power, 2018 winner. You can see them assembling a rear end assembly right there. And here's the primary car for the number 12 Verizon Chevrolet. See what? Oh, wow. There you go. A yellow shirt has just pointed out to us that they have every picture of every Team Penske winner in the garage this year. Now, this is something that's important to point out, that Team Penske has not won the Indy 500 since 2019. And you have to kind of think that they're trying to motivate their troops a little bit to win the 500. And there's the Verizon special. Back in the regular livery this year, it was actually an oddity that Will Power ran a different livery last year. And actually, you can see all the Indy 500 winners. I showed you that last year, but it's back in the quote-unquote traditional colors. Perhaps that's what Felix Rosenquist's car should have looked like. But you know, here we go, wandering down to Chip Ganassi Racing, and this is a team that everyone has their eyes on. Because they should. This was one of the best teams last year. Actually, this was the best team last year. They won the Indianapolis 500, and we can actually see Takuma Sato hanging out in the garage. I believe that's Roger Yasukawa that he's talking to, and Scott Dixon. In fact, the drivers' meeting going on at Ganassi right now. The 2008 champion and the 2017 and 2020 champions of the 500. Marcus Ericsson, defending winner. New sponsor for him, Husky Ice Spirits, which is supposedly actually going to be available in the U.S. I guess we'll wait and see on that one.
It's Ice Spritz.
Ice Spritz. Iced Spritz. I'll get it right. They still haven't officially announced it, believe it or not. We asked Ganassi PR. We got a backup car for Scott Dixon, PNC Bank. They've got that one forward facing. Now, Scott Dixon is almost always the fastest here by at least a mile an hour, it seems. And the question that a lot of people have, there's two questions really about Scott Dixon. Number one question is, can he beat the pole speed record, and how close is he going to get to the track record this year? And the second question is he cursed here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? It seems like he loses the 500 in a new and unique way every single year. Alex Palou, American Legion car, all the drama in the offseason, now long behind this team. Most recent winners in IndyCar, they won at the GP, and Alex Palou has been so fast here the last couple of years. You got to think the win is coming. You just don't know when the win is coming. And there's a backup car for Palou. And here's Takuma Sato, two-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. Can you believe it? 2017, 2020, and I think a lot of people with Chip Ganassi Racing think that this is going to be a hell of an effort. And I think so too. I think it's going to be really exciting to see Takuma in this team. Yeah, it's one of those things that you'd never thought you'd see. I'm kind of pinching myself that it exists, but there you go. Takuma Sato driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. And there's Taku. Cameraman's on it, checking out his steed for the Indianapolis 500. Now this car is one he crashed at Texas Motor Speedway. And we're just going to have to see. A lot of times they work on these cars all year long to get them prepared, so they don't like to crash them. Dreyer Reinbold Racing. This is a team that shows up just for the Indianapolis 500. And they're here once again. Stefan Wilson, we were there when they announced this team, Cusick Motorsports, the backer on this, so many sponsors on this effort. Steph had never actually gotten a test day before in an Indy car before this year. So it's cool to see that. 23 car, Ryan Hunter-Ray. this is an exciting entry as well. I mean, really, the Dreyer and Reinbold team, I think, is, you know, if you want to pick a dark horse, it's the 23 and 24 cars. And Ryan Hunter-Reay, in a team that's not Andretti Autosport, we haven't seen that in a long time. And he was fast in testing. In fact, so was Steph. This team's here to play, it has to be said. Several garages. Once again, another tire garage for Dreyer and Reinbold. Again, this is an Indy 500 only team. And just imagine the tire budget. Imagine how much effort and cash it takes to do this. And here's another great effort that we love to highlight, and we did highlight earlier, Able Motorsports. This is the former Top Gun chassis, former Top Gun driver, but it's an Indy Lights team with some IndyCar prowess. I describe them as IndyCar ready, and I think they are. Chevrolet power plant behind this one. And, you know, I think a lot of people are writing them off, and I think that's incorrect, frankly. Some people are predicting this car will qualify as high as the 20s. So we'll have to see exactly how that ends up playing out. You may have seen R.C. Anderson talking to Spencer Piggott, who is one of the driver coaches for Able Motorsports. Obviously, the bulk of his coaching is done on the Indy NXT side of things, but here he is helping R.C. Anderson out, which makes a lot of sense. Spencer Piggott was very quick at times at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and look at all these damn tires. Ganassi has 2 garages for tires. Juncos Hollinger Racing, this is another team that has expanded this year. 2-car effort this year for Callum Ilott and Augustine Canapino. You won't miss these cars, let's just say that. We've got a Juncos backup car in this garage. You can just see the extra tires. I mean, they've got everything in there. That looks like my garage at home, actually. And then we've got Callum Ilott. A lot of people high on this guy. He crashed last year, hurt himself a little bit. But typically, if you look at history, guys, usually once they hit the wall, they do one of 2 things. They either slow down or they figure it out. And I think Callum Ilott's going to be one of those folks who figures it out. Augustine Canapino, a lot of people really, really high on this guy, especially in his home country of Argentina. And as you can tell, new livery. They are in the Argentine football kit, and that was quite lucky. They won the World Cup this year. I guess technically last year, right? But we'll call it this year. And even the crew members, as you can see, they look like Lionel Messi. So that's fun.
Is it Lionel?
It's either Lionel or Lionel.
I think it's Lionel.
Lionel Messi.
Lionel.
Well, let us know down in the comments section. I got to appreciate, shout out whoever did this. We got the David Land colors out here. We love that.
You're not going to steal it.
Big fan. I'm thinking about it. Kyle said I should steal these. I don't know. I think they belong to Dale Coyne Racing. It is kind of funny that they haven't changed the the colors from the 51 car. In fact, the hauler is still purple. Stingray Rob. Dale Coyne Racing rookie. He was not off the pace in Texas. It's kind of unfortunate he had that accident. I think you'll figure it out. David Malukas, Lil Dave. Everybody likes Dave Malukas. His car's not in here right now, but Dave has really figured out oval track racing. There's Stingray himself right there. I think David Malukas is one of those guys that we're going to look at as a dark horse for this year's Indianapolis 500. It just seemed like he was the highest finishing rookie last year. He's got a feel for it. Finished, what, 3rd or 4th at Texas this year. And we understand that Texas isn't a total, translation, but to Indianapolis anyway. But we saw Gateway too, and Gateway I think is a little bit closer to Indianapolis in terms of the style of racing. Tires for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. You can see the T-Motors there, as well as Graham on their sign. And speaking of Graham, you know what's interesting that I've just noticed? Arrow McLaren does not have their cars sideways this year. That was something that was pioneered under Sam Schmidt Motorsports. And now one of the only teams doing the sideways garage stalls is Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Got a backup car there for Graham. We actually don't have, do we have the primary car? Sometimes hard to tell with these cars sideways. Kyle is saying no, there is no primary car that we can see. Jack Harvey back up 30 car, people ready, force for good on the side of that car this year. Obviously, Jack Harvey and Christian Lundgaard swapped numbers this year and swapped teams. A lot of people were making a lot of rumors about Jack Harvey. As far as I know, it was not him who was totally the subject of those rumors. Christian Lundgaard, you can actually see the backup car without an aero screen right now. The primary car can just peek in and see in the garage, but the Rahal team isn't expecting to go out anytime soon, which I think is the correct call. Drivers meeting going on in the Catherine Legg garage. You can see Christian Lundgaard as well as the fourth driver for this team, another team expanding, Catherine Legg, back here after a 10-year absence. Last time she was here was with Sam Schmidt Motorsports in 2013. She's pretty quick at times here at the Speedway. Let's wait for the golf cart to go by. DHL, Romain Grosjean. Talk about that here in just a second. Don't get run over, Kyle. Another golf cart. That is the thing here. You got a lot of golf carts to go by. There's Tech. We don't need to talk about Tech. We talked about Tech last year. Meyer-Shank Racing. Where have they been? Where are you? Well, they're here. Tire garage here. I'm curious what Meyer-Shank Racing is going to do in the Indy 500. There's obviously been a lot of talk about their season, positively and negatively, both on the IndyCar side and on the sports car side. Their cars are clearly in Tech. But one of the things that the Meyer-Shank Racing team does that other teams don't necessarily do is they reserve a car specifically to run the Indianapolis 500 for both of their drivers. So, you know, if they've been slow earlier this year, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be slow at the Indianapolis 500. Simon Pagenaud and Helio Castroneves on the driving duties, if I haven't mentioned that already. Andretti Autosport, ready at Andretti. Colton Herta, who hasn't quite had the results this year that I think we would have expected from him. You can see very empty garage right now. All the cars at Tech, as if we're going to go racing in 30 minutes, which we are not. We've got Kyle Kirkwood's garage and another empty Andretti Autosport garage. AutoNation 27 here for Kyle Kirkwood. Then we go to Romain Grosjean, and his car actually is in the garage, back in the DHL colors for the Indianapolis 500. You can see the primary and the backup car in here. You got to think his first win is coming too. Surely it's coming. I don't know about it winning the Indy 500 though. I guess we'll have to see. And I'm sure people will replay this back later in the month if something comes of that. Devlin DeFrancesco. There's a lot of interesting things said about him over the past couple of days. But he's here. He's in the 29 and will be for the Indianapolis 500. Sodexo sponsorship on this car.
How much Sodexo is?
Which is school lunches, which is interesting. I'm pretty sure my school lunches were Sodexo at the time. So here we are in Andretti Autosport. Marco Andretti. I almost forgot Marco Andretti. He was been so close so many times at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but he hasn't won. Colton Herta driving by on a golf cart. I don't know if we saw that or not, but he did see us, and he slammed that gas pedal when he saw it. We actually do have some backup cars over there, so maybe we'll see wherever the primary cars ended up going. Not as many bikes today as you can imagine. I was talking about how it's a bike show here in the garage most of the time, and you can actually see, well, we will talk about this, I guess. Here's the tech line. Everybody's waiting to get teched up here, and unlike basketball, you want to be teched up because that means you can go out on the racing surface. Tony Kanaan's car here. In fact, most of the field, I imagine we've got some Rahal cars, we've got some Foyt cars, we've got some Andretti cars, got pretty much everybody you could possibly imagine. And actually, check this out over here in the Andretti garage. We've actually got a massage going on. It's important. Human capital, human performance is as an important aspect of this deal as the race cars themselves. And, well, that's what Andretti Autosport is doing. Let me see if I can identify cars covered up. As Brian Herta drives by, all the Hertas all out on the golf carts this morning. Andretti Autosport has about 20 garages. I don't know how they pay for all this garage space, but I suppose they do. They figure it out. You can see the tech line here. Oh, I guess I should mention, the gas station is now a Shell gas station. Last year it was a Speedway gas station. Obviously the fuel supplier has changed, and now it's a Shell station. Here's all the Andretti tires. I imagine that's part of, yeah, well, that's interesting. The Andretti tires are in a Honda. I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Ed Carpenter Racing, the final team for this year's Indianapolis 500. We had a couple extra teams to talk about this year, which I appreciate. There's where some of the team meetings go on at Ed Carpenter Racing. This team is always so fast at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I think most people are expecting them to be this year as well, though their season has not gone very well. Much like Meyer Shank Racing, I think most people are expecting them to show up here. Huge tire bill. Connor Daly, a new car this year. You can just maybe peek in the door there and kind of see it. It's very bright, which is good for the spotters, because I think a lot of people were worried what the two Bitnile cars were going to look like, or at least the two darker Bitnile cars, but it's very easy to tell them apart now. Ed Carpenter, one of the most prolific qualifiers of all time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indianapolis 500. So many pole positions in a row, a second place at one point, and he will drink buttermilk if he wins the race. He's made that claim several times. Rinus VeeKay, front row starter the last 2 years, but hasn't gotten the results to show for it. I wonder if someday Rinus VeeKay will be an Indianapolis 500 winner. If you asked Ed Carpenter, he would tell you he would be. And I think Rinus definitely has the pace. We'll have to see as things progress. And there's a garage door opening. If you ever wanted to know what a garage door opening at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway looks like, there you go. So, that's our garage tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. There weren't as many cars out because they're all back here in the tech line. But yeah, this is fun to do. It sounds like the rain's probably going to clear up before the end of the day. So hopefully we'll get some running in. And you guys know as soon as we do, I'll be here to talk about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.